So I know that tangent is y over x. So for the tangent of 0, so we have a y value of 0 over 1 is equal to 0. Then for pi over 2, we have a y value of 1 over 0, which is undefined. For pi, we have 0 over negative 1, which is 0. 3 pi over 2, negative 1 over 0, which is undefined. And 2 pi is the same as 0, which is 0. So we're just getting values of 0, undefined, and so on. But it doesn't really give you enough information to graph it. But if you think of the tangent of 45, which if you make a 45, 45, 90 right triangle is the square root of 2 over the square root of 2, which is 1. So the tangent of 45, which is the tangent of pi over 4, is 1. So if I go halfway between 0 and pi over 2, I have a value of 1. So it goes from 0 to 1 to undefined, which is an asymptote. So it's coming along this way. So it doesn't come in and hug the x-axis and go straight up. If you give yourself a reference point of pi over 4, which is 45, having a value of 1, it helps you to sketch the graph a little bit better. And then for 135 degrees, which has a reference angle of 45, we're getting a negative 1. So I know that the tangent of pi is 0, and the tangent of 3 pi over 2 is undefined again. So we have, if it went up to positive infinity, it's coming up from the bottom of negative, and halfway in between, at 135 degrees, 3 pi over 4, we're getting a value of negative 1. So the graph is going to come down this way. Then halfway in between, it's going to go to positive 1 again before it goes to undefined. And then halfway in between here, it's going to be negative 1 to come down this way. And that's the basic tangent graph. It's not continuous like sine and cosine were. The domain here is that it is defined at values of 0, pi, 2 pi, and so on. So the domain here, it's telling you that where it is defined or where is it undefined. The domain, maybe I better put the domain down here. The domain is undefined for pi over 2 and plus n pi. And of course I could sketch the tangent graph on the other side of the y-axis. It just would continue to come down here, and then it would continue this way, and so on. So I could graph the other side. I'm just using that area for the domain. The range is from negative infinity to infinity, and it's not continuous. It is an odd function because it's symmetric with respect to the origin. So tangent 1 over 0 is undefined for 0. For pi, it's 0 over 1, which is 0. For pi, it's negative 1 over 0, so it's undefined. 3 pi over 2, 0 over negative 1 is 0. And 2 pi is the same as 0, which is undefined. Also, the cotangent and the tangent of 45 are both equal to 1. So I know that this starts undefined, but halfway in between has a value of 1. and then it goes to 0 for pi over 2. So it's coming from being undefined or close to the y-axis, and then coming down to 0. Again, it's not coming down in here and hugging this corner. Halfway in between, at 45 or pi over 4, it strikes a value of 1. It helps you to guide this graph. And then halfway in between, it's going to -1, because it's going to be undefined again at pi. So it's going to come down this way. And then halfway in between, it's going to be 1. Halfway in between, it's going to be -1. So it's going to come down to 0, and then it's going to go down to undefined at 2 pi. So that's the domain, all real numbers except pi, and 2 pi, and 3 pi, and so on. The range is from -infinity to infinity. And this is an odd function also, symmetric with respect to the origin.